Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Habits You Love. Today we are joined by Cheyenne Williams, who I don't know quite well, but we're going to get to know her a little bit more today. We met, it's been a couple of months in February. We met at the Out of Darkness AFSP suicide walk here in Sarasota at Nathan Benderson. I was there for the very first time. I was helping Liz Lowe from Scorch. We were actually doing the warm up for everyone about to do the walk, which was super fun. And then I got a little bit more involved. I think I followed up with Ashley and Wendy. And so I am now on the committee for the suicide walk and Out of Darkness walk here in Sarasota locally and the 4 happening in the state of Florida. So that's been super fun to be involved with that. But you obviously have way more experience and with all this. So I definitely want to dive deeper more into your story. I do want to give her a very big trigger warning here. We are going to be talking about suicide today. And while it's going to be informative and educational, I just want to have a viewer and listener discretion. That's strongly advised. So listen at your discretion. So, all right. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I don't have as much experience as a lot of people that are on our committees and on the board, but I have been with AFSP since 2019. I attended my first walk here. In 2020, I decided to join the walk committee, just like you did. And a year later, they asked me to be a member on the Board of Representatives. So I started doing that and I became the volunteer coordinator. So I've worked with all of Southwest Florida to coordinate volunteers for different programming, walks, and as well as being on the walk committees.
Cool. So what is your connection to suicide? Do you have one? Is there a reason why you do what you do now?
Yeah.
And why you wanted to be involved?
So I have had many encounters with suicide. Growing up in high school, we lost 2 students. I want to say a month apart from each other to suicide. And at the time, being a teenager, you're just in your own world. So you didn't really think too much of it. Then as I got older, my mom was very sick and she suffered from multiple sclerosis, but I didn't know that she also suffered from mental health. So I lost my mom in 2016 to suicide. Um, and then about, I want to say 6 or 7 months after that, I lost one of my really good friends, who was much older than I was, but I didn't know she was suffering as well. So I was kind of in this like giant bubble of, oh my gosh, this is a real big problem. And I didn't know where to turn. And I actually found AFSP through a hospital that I had been working for who sponsored the walk. And they came to me and they asked if I would be the captain for their team.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
and here you are.
That's how I got involved.
Oh my gosh. So if you don't mind me asking, when were you in high school? What year was this?
I graduated in 2012.
Okay. Okay. So from high school. So you're 4 years younger than me. Oh, interesting. Because I was going to say, with my connection with suicide, suicide was never a word that was ever used in anyone's vocabulary that I knew. I've never, even in school or anything, it was never a thing. And so my mom ended up committing suicide in 2015 after dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety. And so it was just crazy. I still to this day, it's weird connecting myself to suicide. That it did happen because she's really the only person I know that's ever done it. And so it's still very strange to me that I look back and I have to say, my mother did take her life. So, I don't know. It was just never a thing in school for us. I don't know anyone that ever did it. Nothing ever happened in middle school, high school. So I think now it's very strange to me. I was just having a conversation with someone last night talking about how mental health therapy, all this is becoming more mainstream while at the same time the rates are increasing. So it was why is this happening? So we definitely want to get into some statistics today. I know you're very involved with AFSP and you just went to somewhere. Where did you go again?
Yeah, we just went to Washington, D.C. for the advocacy forum
Mm.
where we met with our legislators. We had three big asks. The focus was on veteran services, mental health for teens in
Mhm.
schools, and then the third one was more funding for 988.
Okay, what's 988? The hotline?
Yep,
Yeah.
988 is the new hotline for crisis intervention that you
Mm.
call, and it's
Mhm.
nationwide as of July of last year.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So by doing that, I mean, have you seen any sort of like change in the reasons why this may be happening? Like why are these numbers increasing at such a rapid rate?
I personally don't know if the numbers are necessarily increasing as much as more people are aware of them. I
Mm.
think that suicide has always been a very prevalent thing
Mhm.
in society, especially if you look at the numbers all over the world. So it has been an issue. I think more people are willing to talk about it and be open about it. And that is a big thing at AFSP that we're trying to push for
Mhm.
is to come out of the darkness. That's where our walk
Yeah.
name came from. Um, but I do think that, a lot of things that especially younger generations have today puts more of a mental strain
Mhm.
on them
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so if we're looking at some of these statistics, worldwide, over 700,000 people a year. I mean, in the UK, 115 a week. And like you said, maybe more people are coming forward. Like 1 in 5 people say they have suicidal thoughts. 1 in 14 self-harm. 1 in 15 attempt. So yeah, I think it is getting more and more out there, but it's still, yeah, the numbers are still shockingly high. And yeah, so let's maybe go to the next one. So going more to teen. I mean, I think really the main age range here for suicide, what I saw was like 24 to 35 or something like that. But it is getting a lot more prevalent in teens. And I think the impact of social media, there's so much out there. It's more inclined to get bullied, via online through these apps that parents don't know about, all these secret things that people could do, and then they vanish and all that. A lot of more comparison, and I think kids just don't know. They don't give their brains long enough time to develop and actually understand the consequences of what they may be doing when they do partake in that. So I mean, I don't know how to change that or how to
Yeah.
fix that. The apps are never going to go away. I think it's more of a parent's responsibility to make sure their kids are, well, for one, personally, I think parents need to instill at a young age with kids, you know, some emotional tools, confidence, no matter what happens in the world, you are this, just instilling this positive affirmations. I personally, in my opinion, I think that has a lot to do with it. If a child can just roam free and they are the ones dependent on, thinking for themselves and like they have to figure themselves out in the world with going through school and so many other human experiences, then they're more likely to just like succumb to the world around them as opposed to having those strong beliefs instilled in them at an early age. So I think that has a lot to do with it, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you said you're 4 years older than me. So
Mhm.
you also lived in a time where, like, you were kind of raised by a TV. Like, that was the new thing. You had your
Mhm.
cartoons were now all day, not just on Saturday mornings. And I feel like a lot of people do give a lot of leeway to kids when it comes to social media and
Mhm.
apps and things that they're consuming. But they're not giving those kids a safe outlet
Yeah.
to really debrief what they're learning. So yeah, definitely having those conversations with kids is super important, making sure you're involved in, what they're doing online.
Yeah,
Be-
definitely.
because before, you would get bullied at school, and you can come home and you were safe at home. Now kids aren't necessarily safe at home because the
Yeah.
bullying not only like is in the schools, but can follow them home to a much larger audience
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, that or the activity going on at home isn't safe either.
Mhm.
Going back to, being in high school, I graduated in 2008. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 15. And that cell phone was a Nokia flip phone. There was no
Yeah,
smartphones. I didn't get a smartphone until
absolutely.
I was 20. So that, I
Mhm.
mean, that just plays such a big role. And as technology is increasing and our world is changing, that's why I do feel like kids are more susceptible to just be like, oh, well, I just don't want to be here anymore. And it's just really
Yeah,
sad because of what they face every single day. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And if you do look at the statistics, it is the second leading cause of death with 24 to or 25 to 34-year-olds.
yeah.
It's now the third leading cause of death from 10 to 19.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Crazy. So
It's very
going
tragic.
to legislation and all that, what do you advocate for? Is it more like, if you could describe, is it more of like a specific thing? Is it more overall, the overarching, you know?
Yeah, so AFSP has a advocacy team where they go through and they look at different legislation and they either oppose or support different bills that are going through the House and through the Senate. And a lot of times they do, you know, or like create bills that they will propose to them. And this year we had a bill that is bipartisan. Most of our bills are bipartisan. Everybody, within the government has some say in mental health because this is our future and these are
Mhm.
our children. So one of the big things we were talking about this year was specifically getting more mental health providers into schools to have these conversations and more like focus on the students to talk about and give them outlets for mental health before it becomes a problem.
Right. Definitely. It's not enough to just talk about the statistics all the time. It's
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
1 in 8 or the percentage. It's just not enough because there has to be more has to be done.
Yeah. And another one of our asks this year for legislation was more funding for 988, which was that suicide crisis lifeline that we talked about earlier. And what we asked for them was the more funding for it. But what we've seen is since it became a 3-digit number, it also has the ability for text and online chat. We've seen those gosh, can I start that over? I can't even
It's
talk
okay.
now.
It's
Okay.
okay.
So I
The
forgot where I
three
was.
digit number. So now
Yes.
it's a 3-digit number, kind of like 911.
Yep.
It's easier than dialing like, oh, 1-800 and like having 10 numbers.
Exactly. So they
Mm,
combined
mm.
the crisis lifeline into the 988, which is the 3-digit number, and it has online chat as well as text messaging.
Yeah.
And what we've seen is an increase of 1000% in the text features, which we
Wow.
know that that is the main way that
Yes. You got to
young
like meet them where
individuals.
they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a huge need for that. So we're hoping that with the increase of people contacting for support
Mhm.
services, that will decrease the suicide rate.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have also had studies come back that show that 89% of those phone calls and texts they get, the issue's resolved right there. So they
Wow.
don't even need like medical intervention or anything.
Wow. Is there
So
a common theme that people are texting? Like, what is it like? What's like the first thing that people would normally text if you know that answer?
I don't have the
Yeah. I
answer to
wonder if
that.
it's like, I'm feeling like this right now. I don't know what to do. I have no one to talk to. I'd be very curious to know like what the, putting it, if you could categorize it, what that would be. And the fact
Yeah.
that it gets resolved right there, that is amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
truly been a blessing,
Yeah,
so
that's great. So going back, I kind of want to get more into like your personal story with like maybe the people in high school or even with your mom. Like, and I know for me, I feel like my life was like there was my life before my mom did that and my
Mhm,
life after my mom did that. You know what I mean? So it
absolutely.
totally changes the trajectory of your life. It could go, either one way, good or bad, choosing or depending on how you choose to deal with it. So yeah, maybe explain a little bit more about like your mom's situation, like your family. How did that affect your family? How did it affect you? Anything you want to
Yeah.
talk about there?
So, my mom was very sick from the time I was I want to say 10 years old. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She had the progressive type, so she started deteriorating physically
Mm-hmm.
uh, for many, many years and really rapidly. So by the time I was 15, I was the one raising my brothers and, helping my
Mm.
dad. My dad traveled for work a lot. So it was like a lot of pressure on me. And I know that that made my mom miserable because all she
Mm.
wanted to be was a mom.
Yeah. How old are
And
your brothers and how many?
oh my goodness, I have three brothers. At the time that she was diagnosed, oh geez, I was 10, so my oldest of the younger was 4, 2, and 6 months.
Wow.
So they are a lot younger than I
Oh my
am.
gosh. And you were 15?
I was 10 when
Oh,
she was
10. Oh,
diagnosed, but
10.
15 when I
Wow.
started taking care of
Yeah.
them.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So their lives were much more different than mine was. They didn't really know who my mom was before she got
Mm.
sick. So I was kind of like the mom role,
Mm.
which just messes up a whole family dynamic anyway. Um, my husband and I had our first daughter. We were very, very young, so we kind of had to start our lives and moved out of the house, which put like a lot of pressure on my dad. And I know
Mm.
like it wasn't necessarily the most stable lifestyle for somebody who wasn't used to being like a provider in that way.
Yeah, he's more of he makes the money and then
Yeah.
that takes care of the family. Yeah.
Exactly. So I know that that put like a lot of strain on their relationship as well. I never knew my mom had mental health problems. I knew that she was sick
Like,
physically.
mm-hmm.
Um, but after the fact, because it wasn't anything that you would think of, talking to a lot of family members, they would tell me, yeah, she's had mental health struggles since her
Mm.
early 20s.
Mm. Isn't that crazy how
Um,
that just pops up?
yeah, exactly.
Like, where was this information when I needed it?
Yeah, I didn't know she was on Prozac or, any of the medications she was
Yeah.
on for depression and anxiety. So it had not even been a thought, but when you're looking at somebody who has a physical disability like that, and that's all you really see,
Mm. And
you,
you're just like, their behavior and mood is like that because of their
exactly,
limitations physically. Yeah.
exactly. And I was so young too that like anxiety and depression, what was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you have negative emotions growing up a lot, but you don't attribute it to something as being so serious. So, um, when my mom died by suicide, I got the phone call, and I remember it was actually election day in 2016. So, like, everything was
Mm.
chaos
Oh my
anyway.
gosh. So
Um,
around November.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, November 4th.
Mm.
Um, and we were supposed to go down to visit my mom that day with my 2 kids at the time, and I was just really tired, like, I wanted to take a nap while the babies were napping,
Yeah.
and my dad was blowing up my phone, and I just kept ignoring the phone call. I was like, "I'm trying to sleep."
Obviously not
Like
knowing what was going on. Yeah.
yeah, and then I actually like, I couldn't fall asleep, like, 'cause, I mean, 2 kids is
Mm.
exhausting,
Mm.
so I was laying on the couch scrolling on Facebook, and I actually found out from the local news network on Facebook what had happened.
Oh my
They had
gosh.
posted, an article about 45 minutes after the police were called.
Oh my gosh. What is this, like a small town?
It's Northport.
Oh my
Yeah, 45
gosh.
minutes south of here,
Wow.
so,
An
um
article on Facebook is already out. That's kind of insensitive because that's not
mhm.
enough information to get it out to all the family members.
Exactly, and the one thing that I recognized was the street address. I was like, "Oh, maybe this is why my dad was calling me,
Yeah.
thinking, something happened with the neighbors or something." And I clicked on it, and it had my family's address on there. So I immediately called my dad, like, thinking, like, this
Yeah.
is, like,
Is there
some
a fire?
mistake.
Is there what's going
Yeah,
on?
that's what I thought, It just said that there had been a death at the address. It didn't say anything about
Mm,
manner or anything like that. And then, I spoke with my dad, and we headed down there. We dropped the kids off at my husband's parents' house and headed down there. And it was like this most strange feeling
it's
because,
very strange.
like,
Yeah.
that they're there all the time. Like, that's somebody you can always call.
Yep. Mhm.
And not having that anymore was a very tricky feeling
Yeah.
to navigate.
Yeah, definitely. So, how old were you at the time?
I was 21.
21. And then you're married with 2 kids. And then how old are your
Mhm.
little brothers at this time? So now they're like,
Oof. Let's see.
um,
I
and then they all
this
live at the
all They
house?
all lived at the
Okay.
house, and my middle brother, I want to say he was 11.
Okay.
I'm trying to do the math in my
Yeah.
brain. So my oldest brother was 14. Yeah, so my middle brother was 12, and then the youngest one was 10.
Mm.
And my middle brother was the one that found
Oh
her.
my gosh.
So,
How do you think your family has dealt with it?
not in the best ways.
Mhm.
I think that, again, my dad was always the I make the money to provide for the family, not the I'm gonna put them in therapy or
Yeah, the
anything.
emotional support, the
Yeah.
the
So,
house cleaner, the food, the cook, on the laundry. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So I was still that person
Mhm.
where I was trying to do everything I could to make sure, like, my brothers were okay, while also,
Mm.
like, really trying to deal with it.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanna say it wasn't until my first walk with AFSP that, I allowed myself to feel those emotions of grief.
Mm. Years later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept it all bottled up, and I
Yeah.
was just like, "It's fine, like,
Yeah, we have
one day at a time."
very similar stories, very similar. I have 3 other siblings.
Oh, wow.
My dad was always
Mhm.
he was the, breadwinner. My mom didn't work. And yeah, I mean, it just your mom obviously had kids at the house, but to
Yeah.
me, I personally believe that when we were all out of the house because we were all older, she kind of just lost her identity in the world, her place in the world of I'm a mom, I raise kids, I take care of my husband. And
Yeah.
when those things were no longer needed, she didn't feel like she was needed anymore. And so same thing, like actually my little brother and little sister, they actually heard it. They were outside the door when she did it. So they didn't like find her. They had already found her before she did it. And unfortunately, I mean, when you're in that low of a place, knowing your knowing your children outside the door and still decide to do it, like you have to be in such a low place to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So yeah, same thing, just complete shock of the body when my sister called me and told me what happened. I was married at the time. We got in the truck and just I like threw on clothes, we got in the truck and I was in so much shock that my body was physically shaking like uncontrollably, but I
Mhm.
wasn't crying. I was just like shaking.
Yeah.
Like just and that's when like trauma just ensued. And then it was oh, we got to plan the funeral and just
Mhm.
disassociated from life altogether for a couple of years until I finally addressed it and had to deal with it. And then, like I said, it's just like ever since then, it's just been my life after that has been
Yeah.
like, I'm taking it and hopefully doing things and not letting it go to waste in my own life
Yeah.
personally and then trying to help others as well. So that's how I got to where I am today. That's why I'm sitting here. That's why I
Yeah.
met you at the walk. And so yeah, it's so crazy how it's such a quick instance. It's like it can
Yeah.
happen like that, but the ripple effect has a long lasting effect. And I don't
Absolutely.
know if your mom ever did she ever say anything about, like, she didn't, ever had the thoughts or she said out loud, like, "I don't wanna be here anymore," or
She had attempted several times before that I knew
Mm,
about. Um one of the times, like, I literally, she locked herself in the bathroom and I had to break down the bathroom
Mm,
door, called the police. I was probably about 16 or 17 the first time that I had witnessed an attempt.
mm,
Um, so like there was always that sign there, but at the same time, my mom was also under the influence of a lot of different medications and stuff like that. So I didn't think it was, I thought it was more like a medication thing
like having a reaction to medication.
other
Yeah.
than, yeah,
Yeah.
like actually attempting suicide.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
um, most of the time, even in her state, she was either like sleeping or she wasn't the most pleasant person, but
Mm,
she still tried to like be a mom.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so everything pointed to the physical disability, not a mental disability,
Yeah.
but at the same time being so young and not knowing warning signs or, you know, not really understanding like the implications of mental health.
Mm,
Um, it was it was pretty hard to see.
yeah. So now do you feel like you understand more of the warning signs of mental health?
I feel like I'm learning every day
Yeah. Like
because
if you could give someone advice right now of what you witnessed and now knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would like, what would you tell your younger self that maybe someone is in that position right now?
I would say to always listen. If somebody even if somebody doesn't want to talk about it right away, just be like, "Okay, well, I'm always here if you need
Mm,
to." If somebody says that they are having those thoughts, take them seriously.
mhm,
Absolutely. If somebody has attempted, get them the support they need afterwards. Or if you know somebody who is suffering from a loss, definitely be there to be a resource for them,
mm.
to talk to them about what they're feeling. Because, I mean, aftershock is so real.
Yeah.
So just really being there for somebody who's struggling with mental health, helping them with like resources if they need to find a therapist and they just don't want to. Um, just, just
Yeah.
not.
I know it's hard. There's a fine line between pushing too hard and then
Mhm.
being like, well, I'm here for you, but I also want to help you, but not if you don't want me to help you. It's just such a hard situation. So when your mom had attempted a couple times, what was the process after that? Did you just be like, oh, that kind of sucked and we don't really know what to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of how that went. She was admitted to a mental health facility. She
Mm,
would call me every single day, "Get me out of here. I don't belong
mm,
here. Um, this is not where I'm supposed to be." So
mm,
like again, that reinforced in my brain, it's just her physical disability. Like she
yeah.
really doesn't want to be there. But at the same time now I know no, she really should have stayed there longer
Oh, wow.
to
Very
get the help
interesting.
that she
Yeah.
needed. But as far as like her mental health and stuff like that went, I was so young that I didn't really know much about therapy or anything like that other than I had been forced to go to therapy, I want to say like my sophomore year,
Hmm.
um, for stuff.
From your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My mom at the time was still like really overbearing of a mom. So
Hmm.
she made me go to therapy to deal with like um how I was handling her changing with the disease
Hmm.
progression.
Yeah, interesting.
So like that was my and then when I would get there I would just want to like talk about my boyfriend and stuff like that. I'm like I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm here. Like
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Um
It's
but
crazy that she would push for your emotional mental well-being so
Mhm.
much while not taking care of her own.
Exactly. And I think that was a way I do recall a fight that I had with her one time, being young and, you know, dumb. And I didn't want to go. I was like, there's no point in me going to this. Like, I'm totally fine.
Hmm.
And she would get like super agitated about it. I'd be like, you're the one that needs therapy. And I would like
Hmm.
throw that back in her face. And honestly, it was true.
Yeah. Looking back, you're like, this is a
Yeah.
projection of what
Yeah.
you really needed. You're putting it on me and making me do all the things that you really need to do. Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh. Crazy. How do you obviously, hopefully you take your own precautions with your own
Mhm.
self and mental well-being and emotional well-being. So what does that look like for you?
Oh, I do a bunch of different things. I always thought that because I knew so much about mental health that like I would be fine. And a couple years ago, I started having really, really bad panic attacks,
Mm,
and they just came out of left field for no reason. So I definitely had a very hearty lifestyle change. Um, I stopped drinking any type of caffeinated drink. So I'll have like a green tea.
mhm,
Um, but lots of water. I have a very, very strict routine now where I'm working out, I'm eating the right foods and just really taking care of my body and being in control of my body. And I feel like that has allowed me to take more control of my mind as well. So,
so good.
yep,
That's the cure.
absolutely. I feel
Uh,
like once I started doing
mm,
that, I was like, I don't ever want to feel like this. And
yeah,
then I had that fear because of my mother. I took it very seriously.
yeah,
Journaling,
yeah, yeah.
meditation, all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
same. It's sad because I don't want to end up like my mom because there were so
Mhm.
many good parts of her.
Yeah,
So I don't
absolutely.
and when I say that, I don't mean the good parts too. I just mean the bad, quote unquote bad parts, the ways that she couldn't, deal with her own self. She
Mhm.
had a lot of unresolved trauma. Coming to find all this out after, of course. Lots of unresolved trauma, just never really wanted to talk about her feelings, made everything about everyone else. And it was never about her. It was never about what she needed first. So I think just one of the, like, my big advocacy for what I'm trying to do and help mainly women, I would say I gear more to women is, and I was just talking to this with my boyfriend in the car, of just, I think every woman needs to have something of their own going on in
Mhm.
their lives outside of your kids, outside of your husband, outside of your friends. Like, what do you do for yourself first and foremost? Like a routine, a passion, a
Yep.
purpose. Because I think if everything else was gone, what would you be doing with your day or your life? So I really advocate for that for women because my mom just didn't have that. She was like, well,
Yeah,
if I'm not a mom and a wife, then what am I? So
exactly. That
that,
self identity.
yeah, self identity, really strong self identity. And then also it goes back. I mean, it's hard to say. It starts with the parents, but then that's like such a obviously a generational thing.
Yeah.
So if you are a parent right now, you need to get right and be able to pass that on to your kids. You
Yep.
can't expect your kids to do all the work while you're not doing the work.
Mm.
To prevent this, I think it's so preventable. I think it's lack of being able to communicate, lack of being able to share feelings. Um, Lots of comparison, obviously, on the internet today. Of I don't have this, I don't have that, like, so I'm not anything, and there's like that standard that society sets on kids these days, and so it starts with the parents. So it's like, how can we better educate and inform the parents on, like, well, first of all, you definitely need to do the work on yourself. So you have the
Mhm.
tools to instill into your children and like break that cycle. Like I'm trying to break that generational cycle of this is how we just do, because actually on my mom's side, there is a history of suicide. I think there's
Mhm.
been three, three suicides, and then her brother actually attempted it when he was 19. I mean, this is harsh, but he should be dead. He shot himself in the heart and lived when he was
Oh,
19. Yeah. So it's definitely runs on my mom's side. So, like, I just look at that and I'm like, what can I do different?
yeah.
Then so that's why I do what I do.
I love
Yes.
it. It's
So yeah.
great purpose to
Yeah.
have.
So what are the ways? Yeah. So just tell me, like, kind of the ways, like, what do you see yourself doing for, prevention, suicide, and like how you're involved in all this? Like, what's your goal?
My goal is to really just educate people on suicide. We know that 1 in 4 people have some connection to suicide.
Hmm.
So just opening up that conversation and talking about it um, really can save a life. So my hope is that the more that I can do in bringing education here locally, the more lives we could save.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's everybody's goal as well.
Yeah. It
But
starts with you and then the
mhm,
community and then nation and then the world. So start with the community first. And that's
Absolutely.
so awesome, everything that you're doing. I know we have the walk coming up in October. So
Yeah.
we're pushing for that with sponsors, with donations, ways you can get involved. So what are the ways that people can get involved here locally first and then just nationally?
Yeah, definitely. I would say come to our walks. They are truly amazing. I don't think I would be in my journey of healing if I
Mm,
didn't go to a walk. Creating a team, sponsoring, if you want to sponsor the walk. We have different programs, not just our walks. Well, I mean, we have technically 3 walks that we can do in a year. We have campus walks for high schools or
mhm.
colleges, the Hike for Hope, which we do typically in like May, June, and then our big Out of the Darkness walk, which
Yeah.
is like our primary focus. We also do Talk Saved Lives,
Mm.
which is a presentation for the local community. We have a gizmo for mental health, which is this cute little fluffy puppy dog that
Oh
I'll
my gosh. What is it? Like a stuffed
it's like a stuffed
animal?
animal, but he has a book and it's to help teach like elementary school students about like different emotions.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's very like I've thought of that before. Like I want I used to work at a Montessori and this mom bought her kid like it was like that. And
mhm.
it did have like different colors on it and like each color represented a different feeling. And
Oh, that would be
if
cool.
he was feeling something, he would like I don't know, it had like
Oh, I
8
love
legs on
that.
it. And it was like, okay, if it's red, I'm like angry. And he would like, I don't know, it's really cool. It
That
was
is
like a
cool.
tool to help kids navigate their feelings and emotions and be able to communicate them.
Yeah.
So I've thought
I'll
about
have to
doing
look
that.
into
No one
that.
take my idea.
Nobody, yeah. No, that's awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Gizmo,
Mm.
I'm going to be presenting it to 8 different
Oh my
libraries in September for
gosh.
Suicide Prevention
That's
Month.
amazing. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
that.
excited.
That's really cool. I have to learn more about that
Yeah,
offline here.
definitely. And then I'm trying to think of other ways. I'm like drawing another
There's
blank.
so many ways.
Oh, our advocacy. We do a
Yeah.
lot of advocacy. We have state capital days, which is typically in February, as well as the advocacy forum, which is every June. We go up to
Mm.
Washington D.C. and meet with the
Oh my
legislators.
gosh. So the last time you just went, you had the
Mm.
3. So you always bring 3 or you always bring asks,
Yes.
like the 3 main things that you want. So how did that go this last
It
time?
was actually really, really good.
Yeah, they were
So
receptive.
all of the representatives we met with, we met mostly with staffers,
Mhm.
but they were so open. They all listened. A few of them had stories of their own that
Mm.
they were kind enough to share with us. And I have sent out follow-up, so I can let you know how
Awesome.
that goes in the
Yay. Yeah,
future.
definitely let us know. We'll have to
Yeah.
keep everyone updated on that as well. If you could tell anyone right now that may be, let's say it's someone that's just having thoughts,
Mm.
what would you say to them right now?
I would say that you are loved and people want you here. People
Mm,
need you here, people in your life, people in the community, even people you haven't met yet. You are needed here and you are loved. So,
very true. I think a common thing that people say whenever they decide to make that decision is, oh, it's just going to be better without me,
mhm,
or it's going to be easier without me. That's what my mom said. It was like, what did she say? It was just, oh, my grandma was like, what about your kids? And she was like, oh, they'll be fine. Like, it'll actually be better without me or something like that. So it's just,
yeah.
yeah. So it's not better without you. It's
No.
actually much more difficult. It's a lot of navigating, it's a lot of feelings, a lot of grief, a lot of our own therapy that we have to deal with. So that's definitely something I would say is too, is like, it's not better without you
No,
here. So
not at all.
yay. And then on one last question, we do on habits you love, we do like a
Mhm.
megaphone moment. And this is where you just, if you could have a megaphone to the world and everyone stopped in their tracks and listened to
Oh
you,
no.
and you had to give one piece of advice that people actually like took away and they went and applied. Always have to get my megaphone. It's just a prop. It's not for real, but I want to put it out here. What would you say? Like, what's one thing you
Oh,
know for sure about the world, about yourself, about anything? And if you could say it, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to take that and actually use it," what would it be?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say not to look at your life from inside the jar. You got to take yourself out of the jar to look at your whole life, and that's where you can see all the really really great things. Whatever
Ooh.
you're stuck in at the moment, it's just in a jar. Just take yourself out of the jar.
I love that. That's great. That's a good megaphone moment.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
of
I'm going to
course.
link out obviously all the everything for AFSP in the show notes, ways to get involved locally here with us. We'll be doing the walk October 8th and at Nathan Benderson if you are local here. And yeah, just ways to get more involved with suicide prevention, especially for teens. I love everything you guys have going on with the hotline. The dog is so cute, and
So I should have brought
yeah, you
it.
should have. Okay, it's okay. We'll post a picture of him. And yeah, that's it. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for having this, tough, hard conversation, but definitely
of
needs to be more talked about. Like we said, just talk about your feelings. So
yeah.
thank
Absolutely.
you,
Thanks for having
Cheyenne.
me.
All right, thanks.